Inside the Vatican, a wedding is underway, lavish, royal, and surrounded by whispers. But this isn't a love story. Before the night ends, the bride's most private moment will become a public performance, witnessed by priests, nobles, and notaries. And that woman, Lucrezia Borgia, will turn that humiliation into her greatest weapon. The air inside the Vatican halls is heavy, thick with the scent of roasted peacock, spiced wine, and candle wax melting over golden tables. Laughter echoes off marble walls, but it feels forced. Every guest knows this celebration isn't just about marriage, it's about politics. Lucrezia Borgia, just 22 years old, stands at the center of it all. Her golden hair glimmers under the torches. She smiles, but her eyes are distant. Everyone here knows who she is, the daughter of Pope Alexander VI, one of the most powerful and controversial men in Europe. Tonight she is marrying Alfonso d'Este, heir to the Duchy of Ferrara, an ancient, proud family who view the Borgias as dangerous upstarts. This marriage is supposed to unite two powerful houses, but in truth, it's a fragile truce built on suspicion and fear. And before the night ends, the Ferrara family will demand something that will shock even Renaissance Rome. To understand what happens next, you have to understand the world Lucrezia was born into. Renaissance Italy wasn't a time of chivalry or romance. It was a ruthless chessboard of power. City-states like Florence, Venice, and Naples plotted against each other endlessly, trading alliances the way gamblers trade coins. At the center sat the papacy, the Vatican, not just a religious institution, but one of the most powerful political machines in Europe. And no family played the game better than the Borgias. Her father, Pope Alexander VI, was known for his corruption, his ambition, and his willingness to use his children as weapons. Her brother, Cesare Borgia, was a man both feared and admired, a commander, a manipulator, a killer when needed. And Lucrezia? She was their most valuable bargaining chip. She wasn't raised to fall in love. She was raised to seal alliances. Her first marriage, to Giovanni Sforza, was annulled on the public claim that he was impotent. It was a lie meant to ruin his name and free her for a better political match. Her second husband, Alfonso of Aragon, was a man she reportedly loved. But love was dangerous in her family's world. One night, he was attacked, stabbed, and later strangled to death, likely on orders from her own brother, Cesare. By the time she turned 22, Lucrezia was already twice married, twice humiliated, and twice used as a pawn in her family's endless pursuit of power. So when the marriage proposal came from Ferrara, it was more than another political deal. It was a chance for survival. The Este family was old and proud, and Lucrezia's name carried a dark reputation. They knew about the rumors, poison, murder, scandal. They feared her family's influence would destroy them. So before they accepted the match, they demanded certainty. They wanted proof, physical proof, that their son's marriage would be legitimate, consummated, and impossible to undo. And so, they made a grotesque demand. The act of consummation must be witnessed. After hours of feasting, music, and wine, the laughter began to fade. Guests whispered, glancing toward the heavy curtains at the end of the hall, the doorway to the bridal chamber. But this was no private room. It was a stage, carefully arranged. Candles flickered. Curtains were drawn just enough for the chosen witnesses to see inside. Among them were nobles, Vatican clerics, and Ferrara envoys, men who would later write sworn statements about what they saw. Lucrezia stood silent. She knew what was expected of her. Her husband, Alfonso d'Este, understood too. Their marriage would not be real until the witnesses had verified it. In that moment, her body wasn't hers. It was evidence. Her dignity had become a contract. And as the witnesses looked on, their faces half turned but eyes watching, the act was performed, not once, but several times, to erase any possible doubt. By morning, the Vatican buzzed with whispers. The Borgia daughter had done her duty. Ferrara had its guarantee. The entire city knew, and yet Lucrezia didn't break. For most women, that night would have been the end, a life scarred by shame. But Lucrezia wasn't most women. She understood that in her world, power wasn't given. It had to be taken, even from the ruins of humiliation. The very spectacle meant to degrade her had made her untouchable. She was now the Duchess of Ferrara. Her marriage was beyond question, her fertility proven, her alliance secured. And with that, she began to build her own kind of empire. Lucrezia transformed the court of Ferrara. She turned it from a cold fortress into a center of art, poetry, and intellect. She hosted salons where scholars debated Plato, poets read verses, and painters showcased their work. Men came expecting scandal. They left speaking of her intelligence, her charm, and her grace. She turned gossip into reputation, whispers of shame into stories of elegance. The same nobles who once doubted her now sought her favor. She became not just a duchess, but a symbol of survival, refinement, and quiet power. Even her husband, once distant, began to trust her completely. When he went to war, she ruled Ferrara in his absence, signing decrees, hearing petitions, managing finances. The people began calling her La Bonne Duchesse, the Good Duchess, a title she earned not through birthright, but through endurance and brilliance. Scholars still argue about who Lucrezia Borgia really was. Was she a victim, a survivor, or a master of the game? Her letters, elegant and measured, never reveal her true feelings. She never wrote in anger. She never admitted pain. Every word she left behind is calculated, deliberate, the voice of a woman who learned early never to give her enemies ammunition. But one thing is certain, she understood power better than most men of her time. The wedding bed that was meant to humiliate her became the foundation of her authority. The same act that was meant to expose her became proof of her legitimacy. She took the tools of her own oppression and reshaped them into armor. By the time she died in 1519, Lucrezia Borgia was no longer remembered as a scandal. She was remembered as a ruler, calm, capable, and commanding respect even from those who once despised her. History often remembers women like Lucrezia through the eyes of the men who controlled them, the father who used her, the brother who betrayed her, the husband who tested her. But if you look closely, you'll see something else. A woman who refused to let humiliation define her. A woman who played the same ruthless game as the men around her, and won. She began as a pawn in her family's empire. She ended as a queen in everything but name. Because power doesn't always come from victory. Sometimes it's born from survival. And no one understood that better than Lucrezia Borgia.